want you all to see what a state my room is in. Anyways, it is blizzard season in St. Louis. So I did not go to work today. My boss is quite upset about it, but fuck him, I put my PTO in. Um, and you can't just summon somebody to work in a fucking blizzard. I will take them right up before I end up getting sliced out of a car. Anyways, uh, Polyen, because what better thing to do when you're snowed in than to learn and review what you've learned. So this is Rethinking Socialism, What is Socialist? Transition by Dongyan Su and Bao Yu Ching. Ooh, I need to work on my Mandarin pronunciation. Anyways, Mandarin. But so a lot of people think that socialism is just, oh, the government takes over control of the entire means of production. And yes, that is a very, very essential aspect of socialism, but it's not the only aspect of socialism. I'm also reading Fundamentals of Political Economy. It's a very, very good Chinese Marxist Leninist political economy textbook that was released in 1975 during the waning years of the Cultural Revolution. Oh, hello, American. Hello, Serb. What's up? So, rethinking socialism. You just got out of church. Why are you going to church? You know, it's actually good to go to church. There's worse things you could be doing. Just be glad you're not trapped in a blizzard. Anyways, so what is socialist transition? Okay. Our comrade, authors slash political economists. Thank God for political economists because, like, if I had to figure out all this shit on my own, I would be pretty fucked. Like, if it was left to me to do everything that Marx and Sweezy and Bettelheim and all these other comrades did, we would be pretty fucked. We would probably still be knocking rocks together to make fire. Anyways, what is socialist transition? Okay, our authors define socialist transition as the period of time in which a non-communist society transforms into a communist society. So this is going to come up later, okay? Nationalizing everything, okay? There is such a thing called state monopoly capitalism. It's laid out very clearly in Fundamentals of Political Economy, which I highly recommend. You can get it from Foreign Languages Press. And the good thing about Foreign Languages Press is that if you can't afford to buy the books because you're a broke fucker, like I will be if I get fired Thursday, if you're a broke fucker, they're about turning people into Maoists. Making money is just a nice little sideline. But, gang cigarettes. Studying on a snow day. Man, I could tell you did not have a lot of fun when school was called off. Well, I don't know. See, I grew up in the early mid 2000s when all the like dope World War II games were out. Medal of Honor was my favorite. I literally had all of them. So I actually had quite a fun as a wee man. Anyways, going back to state monopoly capitalism. That's basically when you have monopoly capitalism, but the state plays a heavy hand in it. Because what better organ to set up a monopoly than a state? So nationalization of everything is not the be-all, end-all of socialist economic transition. During a socialist transition, there is no certain predetermined path by which policies and events can be judged to determine whether this path is being followed. Instead, the analysis of socialist transition depends on the general direction of transition. So, if you've been around Maoists a lot, you probably heard the term capitalist rotor. It's not just a funky little insult, okay? Capitalist rotor is literally somebody whose politics and economic desires would steer the socialist system back onto the capitalist road, meaning they are doing things that, if left unchecked, would lead to the rebirth of capitalism. And as we all know, that's not a good thing. We are not going through decades and decades of struggle just to go back to capitalism like the People's Republic of China and the Soviet Union did. So it's really, really good that we have these two prior experiences, because if we fuck up, it's our fault, because our elders have already been where we're trying to go. So it's important to study stuff like this. Monopoly, long live the people. Y'all are weird. So the key thing during socialist transition is to keep in mind which road we are on. Are we on the capitalist road or are we on the communist road? Because the purpose of socialism, I'm pretty sure everybody agrees, is to lay the foundations for communism a few centuries down the road. So when people like Xi Jinping and his ideological water carriers, both in the West and in the PRC, talk about, oh, we're going to achieve socialism by 2050. It's kind of shitty. It's stupid. It's delusional because China has already had socialism. China has already had socialism. So like, so basically you're admitting that your country has been on the capitalist road since 1978. So I don't know what they think. I mean, it's you're going to rack your brains trying to figure out why revisionists do what they do. It's pretty simple because they want to make money. Revisionism is the ideology and practice of the bourgeoisie within the communist movement. That's how you define revisionism. That's how we Maoists define revisionism. What is revisionism? Revisionism is the politics, economic methods, and practices of the bourgeoisie during the socialist transition and in the Communist Party. That's why Mao said, you guys are wasting your time looking for the bourgeoisie out there because the bourgeoisie is right here, cuddled up close to you in the party. Why is that? Because, well, okay, look at it this way. If you have a party that guides a huge country that has complete control, you have a state-managed economy. So wouldn't it be fairly easy for greedy or cadres who just don't give a fuck to use their positions to amass huge amounts of wealth for themselves, becoming new style capitalists? Of course it would be. So, the analysis of socialist transition depends on the general direction of the transition. Therefore, one single and isolated event cannot determine whether the transition is socialist or capitalist. So we have to look at trends. We have no predetermined path in mind and thus have no specific yardsticks to measure our evaluation. As Lenin said, we do not claim that Marx or the Marxists know the road to socialism in all its completeness. So whenever you hear somebody talking about, oh, I know exactly how we're going to build socialism in the United States. First of all, you're not going to build socialism in the United States. You're going to build socialism on the burning, shattered ruins of what was once the United States. Here's the thing. You cannot build socialism in a settler colonial country. There was never going to be a socialist Israel, no matter how many kibbutzes they stole. There's not going to be a socialist Rhodesia. There's not going to be a socialist Australia. There's not going to be a socialist New Zealand, because the primary contradiction in the era of imperialism in settler colonial countries is the contradiction between the imperialized, the people who the land was stolen from, or the people who were being exploited to amass monopoly super profits for companies that are based in the first world, and the imperialists who are exploiting the people of the whole world, including internal colonies within countries like the United States. Every settled colonial country has one or several oppressed nationalities. In the United States, you have the Chicano people, you have the New African people, you have the Hawaiian people, you have the several indigenous nations, you have the indigenous people of Alaska, you have the Puerto Rican people, you have the Micronesian, you have the Samoan, you have the Chamorro people in Guam. This country has basically subdued, chained, and robbed dozens of formerly independent nations. Or in the case of the New African people, it has led to the creation of an entirely new oppressed nation. So you cannot have socialism as long as the contradiction on which your country was founded, the settler colonial contradiction, has not been resolved. How do you resolve the contradiction of settler colonialism in a settler colonial country? By destroying the settler colonial country. We cannot just simply lay hands on the pre-existing settler colonial apparatus and turn it socialist. That's simply not going to happen. There's too much blood in the gears of that shit. You have to smash the settler colonial state machinery, to paraphrase Lenin. We know the direction of the road that we're going to take. We know what class forces lead along it. But concretely and practically, it will be learned from the experience of millions who take up the task. There are, of course, some general and broad guidelines on the direction of the transition towards communism. Most generally accept that socialism, or what Marx called the elementary stage of communism, is a stage of development wherein the direct producers gain control of the means of production and distribution is made to each according to his work. From each according to its ability, to each according to his need. That is the slogan that is emblazoned on the banner of communism. Under socialism, the motto, how we work, is to each according to his work. Under capitalism, capitalists own the means of production and direct producers have no control. Your surplus value is being stolen. You have no say. The only thing you have besides the chains around your neck is your labor power. That's what makes you powerful. Power is literally right there. Since the purpose of production under capitalism is value valorization, capitalists must relentlessly extract as much surplus value as possible from the workers. So that's why they summon you to work in a deadly blizzard. That's why they lengthen your workday. That's why they do all of these things. That's why they add additional tasks to you on your job with no further forthcoming compensation. It's very common. You start work on a job and then suddenly you find yourself being a butcher, you find yourself being a stalker. Like, you cannot be not busy, because when you are paid a wage, which camouflages the full extent of your surplus value, when you're paid a wage, they are literally buying you for the period of time that you're on the clock. So you're basically, that's why we use the term wage slave. You are literally a slave until you're off the clock. I've heard that Chicanos are pretendians. What's your take on that? I mean, don't most Chicanos have varying degrees of indigenous blood? Like, how are they pretendians? I don't know. That is a discussion that's best had between various Chicano and indigenous people. I really don't think it's my place as a New African comment to weigh in on such things, because what I'm going to say is inevitably going to be wrong or offensive to somebody, and that's not how I roll. The purpose of production under socialism, on the other hand, is to produce products of use value, shit you can actually use, computers, desks, food, etc., to meet the needs of the people. When you think about socialism, you have to think about the people. That is the purpose of production under socialism. Thus, socialism represents a fundamental change in the capitalist relations of production. It is the antithesis of capitalism. So you cannot have capitalism and socialism cannot coexist. Okay, that's a basic Maoist thesis. These general guidelines give the direction, which is a developmental process of transforming the relations of production from commodity production, producing shit to sell or trade, to non-commodity production. Correspondingly, there have to be fundamental changes in the political, social, and cultural aspects of the society. The socialist transition is by no means a smooth one. It is marked by many twists and turns. So when you have somebody that like this has this stages view, says, okay, then we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, then you're going to do this, then you're going to do this, it's not going to work. People don't work that way. We talked about processes that are going to involve tens of millions, hundreds of millions, billions of people in the case of China. So it cannot just be so clear-cut. It cannot just be like so clean. We're not playing a video game here. We're dealing with the lives of billions of people. Expected setbacks and retreats occur. However, the general direction is always clear. You're always either moving towards communism or you're moving towards capitalism. We could add in a third. You could also be moving towards destruction. However, due to certain circumstances, retreats are sometimes necessary before advances. In such cases, the reasons behind the retreats should be clearly explained. In the case of the PRC, Xi Jinping is not clearly explaining them because he doesn't give a shit about communism. So, Section 1.A. State ownership of the means of production does not equal socialist relations of production. I repeat, state ownership of the means of production does not equal socialist relations of production. In countries that attempted to establish socialism, as a rule, the state first took the step to nationalize industries. Therefore, legal transfer of the means of production to the state has often been taken as the beginning of socialism. In other words, conventional analysis often equates state ownership of the means of production to socialism. When you hear somebody that is claiming that China is socialist because they have many, many state-owned industries, I continue to want you to think about the term monopoly state capitalism. You have to think about what roads, you have to think about the relations of production. How are the workers treated? Do the workers have control of where they work, what they produce, etc.? If not, then you are on the capitalist road. You are not under socialism. And it's a mistake to think otherwise. It's a revisionist mistake. That's why we call revisionism the ideology, practice, and presence of the bourgeoisie, old and new, in the socialist movement. We disagree with such an analysis because when the legal transfer occurs, there's no way to judge the nature of the transition, socialist or capitalist. Socialist or capitalist. There's only two roads you can take. There is no third way. Thus, we do not regard the legal transfer of the means of production to the state as the point of departure on the embankment of socialism. Judicial change in ownership is only a point of reference. It is merely an index that marks the historical development up until that time. Judicial change in ownership provides the possibility for future changes, but it does not necessarily guarantee it. Whether the transition is socialist or capitalist depends on the concrete events after the legal transfers. So the government can take over as many factories as it wants. But if the workers are not empowered, if the workers are not encouraged to seize power themselves, then you set up state monopoly capitalism. You're setting up revisionism, or you're just going through the same old capitalist process. That's why I laugh at these people that are like, oh, all we have to do is nationalize the banks. You're still going to be under capitalism, fool. If the proletariat, if the working class does not seize political power in its entirety and smash the old ruling class system, the old ruling class apparatuses, like if we don't burn the Constitution that was made by slave owners damn near 300 years ago, what the fuck are we doing? It's certainly not socialist. Maybe it's fascist. Who knows? We first need to clarify the meaning of state ownership. State ownership existed both in a capitalist system and in the transition period towards communism. State ownership simply means that the state has effective control over the means of production. During transition, state ownership does not in any way imply a change in the relations of production. Under capitalism, the state apparatus may take effective control over the means of production of some enterprises and make them state-owned. There are many reasons for the state to take ownership of the means of production of some enterprises in a capitalist country. The most important one is probably that state ownership makes it possible for the state to steer, in a limited way, the direction of development and thus serves complement and enhance the accumulation of capital in both the state and the private sector. Under capitalism, the only goal of the state, which is an instrument of violence to suppress one class by another, never forget that, is accumulation of capital, extorting and exploiting surplus value from tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people who are working class, the majority. For example, the state may own large enterprises in utilities, transportation, communication, banking, etc. Another reason for state ownership under capitalism in third world countries is to defend certain enterprises against foreign takeover. When a third world country tries to develop its economy independently and its domestic private capital is very weak, state ownership is often the only way to fend off foreign capital. In our analysis of the transition period between capitalism and communism, making the distinction between the legal transfer of ownership of the means of production to the state and the beginning of socialist transition is very important in order to clarify the question of revisionism. Dun, dun, dun. In many countries, China included, the Communist Party claimed and continues to claim that it practices socialism because the majority of their industries were or are still state-owned. Remember what I just said? When in fact the transition was already reversed from socialist to capitalist. You are not a Maoist if you do not believe in continued class struggle under socialism, okay? You cannot legislate. You cannot just declare class struggle over because the course of real events is going to kick your ass. No matter what you call yourself, no matter where you are, certain people within the party are going to be fucking greedy. Certain people within the party are going to want to accumulate power unto themselves. Why do you think it's important for us to collectivize agriculture, especially in countries where there are peasants? Because Lenin said that small production, small farming, stuff like that, it continues to engender capitalism daily, hourly, by the second. So if you do not collectivize, if you do not advance the struggle, advance the economic development of your country in a communist direction, then you're going to end up with a bunch of rich peasants. You're going to end up with a bunch of little exploiters. Do I support small business? Yes, under capitalism. Of course. Like, if there's a brother that doesn't want to work for white people, the thrice damn devils, of course he can set up a shop selling carvings and stuff from Africa. There's really no problem with that. As a matter of fact, the civil rights movement was made possible by small businessmen, small farm owners like this. Because here's the thing. You're in Mississippi in 1962. You work on a plantation, or say you're a stocker at a cotton warehouse, right? Or you work on a boat, or you do something that is dependent on white people, yeah, for your living. So are you going to go down and try to register to vote? No, because you can lose your job that way. If you lose your job, then you either have to move and live with relatives in Chicago or St. Louis or Detroit or somewhere like that and chain yourself to an auto plant for the next 30 years of your life, or you starve. So economic pressure, especially with areas where there were white citizens councils, basically the Klan in suits and ties, economic pressure drove a lot of people away from the civil rights movement. So people like T.R.M. Howard, if you don't know who he is, you should learn. Badass doctor from Mississippi. He guarded Emmett Till's mom, Mamie Mobley Till, when she came down south and stopped her from disappearing like her son did. Rest in power. So there were dozens, hundreds of black farm owners who inherited land. They bought the land. They took the land after slavery, whatever. But they had it. So they did not depend on white people. So they were able to become stalwarts in the civil rights movement. Ministers as well did not depend on white people. They depended on the masses. So that's fine. But under socialism, that type of thing engenders capitalism. Because we cannot allow capitalists to continue to exist under socialism. It's simply not going to work. At the current time, the Chinese Communist Party uses state ownership as an indicator of practicing socialism in order to legitimize its rule. As we explained earlier, state ownership exists in both the capitalist system and during the period of transition. Thus, state ownership does not in any way indicate or express the relations of production. Marx distinguished judicial change from real change in the relations of production. Marx criticized Proudhon because Proudhon considered the legal aspect, not the real form, as the relations of production. For the same reason, we differ from the traditional Chinese use of the term. After the Communist Party overthrew the Nationalists and established the People's Government in 1949, the new government confiscated all bureaucratic capital and foreign capital. So foreign capital, those are your Japanese, American, British, French. Like China was basically carved the fuck up. They did the same thing to China that they did to Africa. Every European country, along with the Japanese, along with the United States, had its own sphere of influence. Bureaucratic capital was the capital amassed by native capitalists who were aligned with the imperialists. Chiang Kai-shek's family, TV Sung, all these types of people. They basically were traitors and sellouts to their own people, and they helped the imperialists fuck their own people over. That's a bureaucratic capitalist. And bureaucratic capitalists are tricky because many of these people, they end up ruling countries after they become independent from the West. And a lot of naive or gullible or outright stupid so-called anti-imperialists in the West end up supporting them because they make anti-American noise every time that they're in trouble. You want to unite your people in the third world? Whine about the West. That's basic political discourse. Then, in 1952, after nationalizing all major assets in transportation, communication, and manufacturing, it completed land reform. Land to the tiller. After 1952, the government took several steps to nationalize the remaining private capital and in launching cooperative movements in agriculture. By 1956, it completed both the nationalization of industry and the collectivization of agriculture. So in 1956, we could say that the new democratic revolution was complete and China was firmly on the road to communism. The government legally transferred the means of ownership to the ownership of the means of production to the state and to the collectives. China called, and still calls, the period between 1952 and 1956 the transition to socialism, and the period after 1956 socialism. According to our analysis, during the period of 1949 to 1978, the state instituted policies that clearly indicated the direction of transition was towards communism. Therefore, this was a socialist transition. On the other hand, the policies of Deng Xiaoping's reforms since 1979 have clearly indicated that the direction of the transition has been reversed towards capitalism. Therefore, the transition since 1979 was capitalist. So if you use your dialectical materialism, there is no hard stage. There is no okay, this is where we are. This date, this hour is when we officially were socialists. Shit moves and ebbs and flows and waves. That's dialectical materialism. You have to be able to look at both sides of a question at the same time and also look up and down. That's how dialectics works. The analysis above should not be mistaken to mean that state ownership of the means of production is not necessary during the socialist transition and thus justifies the massive privatization that has been carried out in China under Deng's reform. We will explain this point further in our analysis below, and we will also explain the difference between legal ownership and economic ownership. B. State participation in planning does not mean a socialist economy. Planning versus market is another measurement used by conventional analysis to distinguish capitalist and socialist transition. This kind of analysis often equates planning with socialism and market with capitalism. Like state ownership, the state in the capitalist system also uses planning as an instrument to steer the direction of the economy. In many capitalist countries, the state participates in planning, which can take place with or without the legal transfer of ownership to the state. Although it varies amongst capitalist countries, the state apparatus in capitalist countries has played an important role in both direct production through ownership and planning. The issue of the extent of state participation in these activities has been debated amongst bourgeois economists and in the United States between conservatives and liberals, varying types of capitalists, in capitalist countries for many decades. The basic contradiction of capitalism, like why can't capitalism continue to exist? Like, what is the basic antagonistic contradiction? What is going to lead to the communist revolution in capitalist countries? Basic contradiction is this, extremely important. The socialization of production. We don't have people to just sit down and make, like, we're not a country of Etsy producers, okay? You go to work, you work with other people. You have to work with other people. Do you have any idea how many people it used to take to make a car? Of course, a lot of this is automated now, made by robots. But back in the day, a car was the product of dozens, hundreds of people. That's socialization of production. But despite this socialization of production, despite it needing tens of thousands of people to produce this shit, the ownership of the means of production is private. So when you have private ownership of socialized means of production, of socialized production, then that leads to a variety of ills. It leads to constant crises. It leads to under or overproduction to ensure that the capitalists continue to make bank. It stifles the development of new technology. Like, do you have any idea how much technology is sitting in a file cabinet somewhere? Like, we could have hover cars, but Ford and ExxonMobil and Royal Dutch Shell and BP, they don't want that. They don't want hover cars. They don't want you to live like in the Jetsons because they're going to have to stop. They're going to stop making money. Never mind what the Saudis are going to think if we suddenly cut off oil. There's too many rich people that are not going to allow this. So you have an inhibition. They are a brake on continued development of humanity as a species, along with the fact that they're literally killing the planet. As long as the capitalist system exists, this intrinsic contradiction manifests itself through periodic and deepening crises. So in capitalism, we have a cycle. You've got a crisis, you've got a recession or a depression, you've got a recovery period, and you've got a boom. Since the Great Depression, the state in capitalist countries has attempted to deal with the problems resulting from this basic contradiction, but it cannot because it's not a flaw, it's a feature. It's not a bug. It's a feature. It's built into the game. The state has used the power vested in them to regulate business cycles through Keynesian fiscal and monetary policies. To deal with the problem of economic fluctuation and long-term stagnation, the state has also actively participated in building public infrastructure and managing labor power. That's your employment, your education and training programs, and unemployment and welfare programs. So that's your Job Corps, that's your Social Security, that's your unemployment insurance, etc. Through credit policies, low interest and guaranteed loans, the U.S. federal government helps the expansion of the housing industry. The United States government does not give anything away for free. Foreign aid is basically, aid to our own people, it's basically a giveaway to capitalists. They're taking your tax dollars, giving them to you or giving them to other countries, and then it goes right back into the hands of Royal Dutch Shell. It goes right back into the hands of Costco. It goes right into the hands of Walmart. Like, people are talking about Trump gave us stimmies. Okay, who benefited from the stimmies? You got your stimmy, you ran to Walmart and bought you food, or you bought you a TV or something like that. That's more money in the Walton family's pocket, in the Walmart shareholders' pockets. That benefited you? Not at all. It's not aid giving somebody money to buy products from capitalists. That's called a subsidy. That's called a giveaway. Kwame Nkrumah also said this. He said the same thing. Like, foreign aid is a trap. They give you money. It passes through the neocolonial state. Of course, everybody takes a little piece of it because most of these states are crooked as hell. And then they go and they buy airplanes from Boeing, or they buy drones from Raytheon or something like that. So how has this benefited the people of the country? How has this benefited the people of the country? It hasn't. Military buildup boosts the defense industry and all of the various industries that depend on the defense industry. The state also helps regulate the financial markets in order to facilitate the link between financial capital and production capital. In the circulation sphere, the state regulates and promotes domestic and international trade. To enhance the competitiveness of U.S. business in the international market, the U.S. government provides export subsidies and export credits to corporations. Local governments also join in by offering corporations the most favorable investment environment, which includes providing corporations with building sites, roads, power, and tax concessions. So they can use roads for free, they can use power for free, they can build, like they'll literally give these people land to build, and you don't have to pay taxes for the first 20 years. Again, how does this help the masses? Every school district in major urban areas has gone to shit. Meantime, you've got these polluting ass companies that are allowed to get land for free. They don't even give out land for free to the little dude that wants to buy a fucking house for the first time, or the elder who spent his entire life as a journeyman carpenter. He can't even buy a house and fix it up for his grandson to live in because the feds ain't giving you shit for free. The city ain't giving you shit for free unless you have a net worth of $1 billion or more. The purpose of state engagement in all these activities is to facilitate the accumulation of capital, yet the expenses involved are paid by the taxpayers, the majority of whom are workers. Taxes are high as hell under capitalism because those who rule us, those who own our government, do not pay no taxes. So you're going to pay taxes. So not only is your surplus value being appropriated, but your money, whatever you're allowed to keep, they take it out of your check. Imagine if you didn't have that fucking percent ding in your paycheck every time you get paid. And where's it going? Go blow up kids in Gaza and the West Bank. In other advanced capitalist countries, state participation in planning is even more extensive. In Japan, for instance, the state has both short-term and long-term plans for the economy. 5, 10, 20-year plans, which give indications of target rate of growth, energy use, the need for labor power, etc. In developing countries, state planning also plays an important role. In Taiwan, for example, the state has actively promoted an export-led growth economy. It projects the need for future public infrastructure to facilitate the transportation of goods for export. The state has also been directly involved in planning energy use and the production of raw materials for export manufacturing, steel, plastic, etc. Therefore, it is a myth that in capitalist countries there is a free enterprise system which relies solely on the market mechanism to function. Planning is not the opposite of a market. The two complement each other in a capitalist system. And what is the purpose of all of this? To further the accumulation of wealth and capital for those who rule us. State intervention through ownership or planning cannot, however, change the fundamental nature of capitalism. This gets to the gist of why we simply cannot reform capitalism. We cannot just nationalize the banks. We cannot just nationalize the power companies. We cannot just nationalize the water companies, because that's still going to be in the service of the capitalist imperialist state. So to thoroughly rectify the antagonistic contradiction of capitalism, the socialization of labor, yet the private ownership, the socialization of production, and the private ownership of the means of production, you have to thoroughly overthrow capitalist rule. Otherwise, you're still going to suffer, whether it's a private monopoly or a state monopoly. Many liberal economists in capitalist countries have wishful thinking that the state can play a major role in altering the purpose of production from capital accumulation to meeting the needs of the people. They fail to realize that capital accumulation is fundamental to the capitalist system and cannot just be changed or altered at will. Instead, the state plays an important role of facilitating the accumulation of capital. At most, the state can influence to a very limited extent the appropriation of products between capital and labor in order to maintain the stability of society. And this has been done only when labor has been able to exert pressure. To conclude, old concepts such as state ownership of production and state economic planning do not help us in any way to clarify the issue of what socialism is. Instead, they further confuse us. It is therefore necessary for us to seek new concepts for our analysis. Part 2. The direction of the transition and question of revisionism. We believe that the question of revisionism should be determined by the direction of the transition, rather than whether the state still owns the means of production or still practices state planning. Capitalist transition, aka revisionism. Revisionism is, we've already said, the rule or the line of the bourgeoisie and the socialist movement. But revisionism in power leads to transition from socialism back to capitalism. Revisionism begins when the state machine reverses the direction of transition from socialism towards communism to capitalism. This does not mean that at this point the revisionists are able to complete transforming the relations of production from socialist to capitalist. The transformation itself takes time, as we have witnessed in the former Soviet Union, in Eastern European countries, and in China itself. In addition, we cannot judge the direction of transition by examining one single policy or one isolated event. Instead, policies have to be evaluated in totality over a period of time. We introduce some new concepts, the capitalist project and the socialist project, as tools for our analysis. The goal of capitalist projects is to move society towards capitalism. Capital projects are concrete ways to establish, maintain, or expand the capitalist relations of production, and to establish, maintain, or reinforce the dominating and dominated relationships between the owners of the means of production and the direct producers. The purpose of production in capitalist projects is value valorization. If the state is able to continue implementing capitalist projects in a consistent way during the transition, it will eventually remove the direct producers, the proletariat, the working class, your ass, from having any control over the means of production for the product of their labor. By expanding capitalist projects, the state, or private capital that's allowed to come in or is allowed to develop, is in a position to speed up capital accumulation by extracting more and more surplus value from workers. So if you look at China today, you know they took away the right to strike? Like if you try to go on strike in China, they would literally come and smash your fucking head in. Yeah. Socialist countries really don't need to have nets outside of their windows of their factories to prevent workers from unaliving themselves. Socialist countries do not need or do not have foreign capital coming in and buying up their workers and forcing them into sweatshops. That's not socialism. Okay, that's not socialism. That sounds remotely like something verging fascism. You're sitting here eating Italian food in honor of your goat, Luigi. Mamma mia. The distribution of capitalist projects is based on the size of capital, constant and variable. Variable is, it's variable. It moves. Whereas constant, that is constant. That's the means of production that have already purchased. They have your variable as working on, not on the amount of work contributed. Diametrically opposed to capitalist projects are socialist projects, whose direction is towards communism, where the direct producers have control over the means of production and the product of their labor. Under socialist projects, the distribution will be at first according to the amount of labor contributed, with serious consideration given to meeting the basic needs of the people. So, under socialism, people always ask me this, like, under socialism, are disabled people going to be fucked? No. If you cannot work, if you are aged, if you are mentally or physically ill, like if you are unable to regularly work, you will be provided for, okay? Your class siblings are not going to allow you to starve because you got into an automobile accident, okay? Like we are not that cruel. We are not that evil. We are not going to label you a social parasite and shove you into a mental asylum. People have tried that before. It doesn't work really well. And I don't want to do that shit to people anyways. You will have a basic living. If you are homeless, you will be given a house, as they are in Cuba. If you are hungry, you will be fed. If you need clothes to wear, you'll be given clothes. If you need to get to your appointments, which are free, by the way, then that is going to be arranged. You are not going to suffer for lack of things that, under any socialist constitution worth its salt, are human rights. Okay, so get that out of your head. Later, when productive forces are fully developed, distribution will then be made according to need. Socialist projects are projects designed to enhance the long-term class interests of the proletariat. They are not the same as so-called social welfare programs in the advanced capitalist countries. These are economic policies, programs derived from political decisions. This is the meaning of what Mao said about politics and command. So get the theory of productive forces out of your head. Okay, socialism is not just about producing stuff. While stuff will be produced under socialism, we have to consider, who is it for? Who has control? What line guides our decisions? A proletarian line or a revisionist line? People think that this is just sophistry and stupid, senseless political arguing on the part of Maoists. No, this is a matter of life and death. Because revisionism is literally the restoration of capitalism, which is what we have shed blood to destroy. So this is not just sophistry on our part. We're not just blowing hot air. Socialist transition is a matter of life and death. Because as we've seen in the Soviet Union, which collapsed, and as we've seen in China, you cannot allow revisionism to set itself up, because your workers are going to be fucked and you're going to be fucked. There's going to be no more proletarian control. There's just going to be state monopoly dictatorship. Politics and command. Learn it. Memorize it. Burn it into your brain. We need to emphasize here that a socialist project is not simply an economic program. It includes social, political, and ideological aspects. In fact, all of these aspects cannot be separated from one another. The same is true for a capitalist project. This is dialectics. You cannot just pigeonhole stuff into like their own little boxes and ne'er the twain or ne'er the three shall meet. Okay? Everything influences everything else. The socialist project is not something with certain fixed and unchanging features. Rather, the socialist project itself has to go through fundamental changes during the transition towards socialism and communism. We will use concrete examples to elaborate this point later. During the transition, both socialist and capitalist projects are necessary. Therefore, we cannot judge the direction of the transition by one single policy or one isolated event. Instead, we need to look at the overall development to determine the direction of the transition. In the following analysis of China's transition, we will use concrete examples to show why it was necessary for capitalist projects and socialist projects, to coexist during the socialist transition, while at the same time, socialist projects competed with and replaced capitalist projects to move society forward. In addition, we will give concrete examples to show how it was possible for the revisionists to reverse the direction of transition by implementing a set of well-coordinated capitalist projects. So that ends the political education section. It's a really good book. I highly recommend that you read it. And I'm not just saying this because I'm a Maoist, but I think like a lot of people are confused. A lot of people don't understand this stuff because it hasn't been put in a brief, like, look at how short this damn book is. It hasn't been put in a brief, easily understandable, plain worded way. So it's not your fault if you do not understand socialist transition and if you do not understand political economy. It's the fault of our shitty education system. It's the fault of those who call themselves communists but do not take it upon themselves to teach people. So hopefully I do not fall into their ranks. Other books I have. This is all from Foreign Languages Press. Highly recommend. Iron Oxen, a documentary of revolution in Chinese farming. I really love William Hinton. He was also an RCP cadre, Revolutionary Communist Party cadre, until Bob Avakian's arrogance drove him off. But yeah, he basically went through various villages. He spent a lot of time in a village called Longbo, which is where Fanxian and Shunfan were written. The narratives of the land reform period and the Cultural Revolution in China. And I also have Iron Felix Dzerzhinsky's Prison Letters and Diaries, the best aristocrat to ever exist. And I also have a book from the revolutionary movement in the Philippines called People Make History. And of course, I already mentioned that I'm reading political basics of political economy, fundamentals of political economy. I'm sorry, but yeah, all the foreign languages stuff is great. Yes. Let's see. Think I should build another new African city. I have been neglecting my duties as a socialist cadre and city planner. So, how is everybody doing today? I think I'm going to build on a map of San Francisco. Call it Newton. I used to do this when I was playing Skylines 1. Also, Civ 7 is coming out next month. Really excited for that. But yeah. Um, if you're ever bored, if you are looking for something to read, go through Foreign Languages Press and have a good time. Some of the stuff is dry, but not everything we study to become better revolutionary organizers and cadre can be fun. Good afternoon, Nathan Madeira. All right, let's get the game set up. Most buildings need a road connection. Okay. Yeah, it wouldn't really be cool if you were just not connected to a road. Gotta go places. Oh, don't fucking freeze. You piece of shit. Yeah, I fucks with Skylines too. You should as well. Hope I don't have too many fucking mods. Jesus, it's still fucking snowing and icing out. I could deal with cold. I could even deal with a little bit of snow, but ice, I just can't. I'm extremely paranoid about going over a bridge and into like that is my greatest fear in this life. Going off a bridge into a huge body of water. Like I used to have nightmares about that shit when I was a kid. There we go. Yeah, fucking code mods. Options. I don't want too much fucking noise. Oh, dope. They added more like actual maps that have taken time to build. Yeah, let's start with San Francisco. Multi-chapter series. What are you reading? The reward for learning is a little after party. I'm glad you guys like the format. Thank you. Yeah, maybe every time I stream now, I gotta read you dumb motherfuckers books. Bedtime stories with BRG. Oh, it's a me, Luigi. If you're a CEO, hi, you're about to die. Yeah, no. Map tiles. I don't need all those fucking tiles. No tutorials. North American theme. Newton City. Oof. I'm going to go smoke before I start this. I will be right back. Don't ever pick up smoking. I tell you guys this every fucking time. Don't ever take up smoking. Oh, you lucky bastard. Minnesota is not getting any snow, but we are. Gods be good, it's cold outside. I tell you guys this all the time. Do not ever take up smoking. Otherwise, you will get to be an idiot like me that is driven outside in damn near sub-zero weather to smoke a cigarette. Don't do it. It's not worth it. It's a waste of money and time and energy. Beautiful Newton City. Alright, let's see what we can cook up. Gotta pause and lay my roads out. Let's start with simple roads. Worth it to look like a badass. Yeah, you look like a badass in your casket, eh? And you can tell by the layouts of every city that I build that I am not an urban planner in real life. A lot of motherfuckers would be sick and sad. Car wrecks everywhere. Nope, I work at a homeless shelter. One thing I really like about this this iteration of Skylines is that you don't have to waste money running power lines and shit all over the place, because everything runs through the roads. Alright. Yeah, I'll do the fucking... And voila. Groundwater. Yeah. Keep your industry away from your groundwater. Unless you want your people being Persian. And of course, the sewage is dumped in the bay. Oof. Yeah, you can go over here. Honestly, if I have to tell you to keep your industry away from your groundwater, you really have no business playing this game. Alright, all low density. So I downloaded a few mods. You can have North American style low density housing, you could have waterfront housing, you could have Japanese, and you could even have British style low density housing. Let's start with the Brits. I really like British architecture. Alrighty. Think anybody wants to live by a fucking highway? Throw in some commercial. You get no commercials. See what type of there. Ore. Alright. Let's chuck up some stone. I can't expand the city yet because we're still quite small. It's okay. Communism will win regardless. Little sots. And of course, you got to keep your housing and your industrial separated. Otherwise, your people are going to constantly be getting sick, and it's not going to be a good time. All right, people want to come live in this shithole. What I usually do is use commercial as buffers. I can build a pub. Let's encourage alcoholism for my people. Alright, so I can 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'll do. And so this is low density British style housing. Pretty. Got to take out the garbage, of course. All right, we've got a dump. And voila. So yeah, this is all going to be industrial because nobody wants to live by a fucking dump. Nor should they be expected to. Alright, so we've got coal. We mine coal. We don't post coal. Not in Newtonville. My people yearn for the mines. Got a fucking clinic. Oof. Try to move this industrial zone over here. You also got to keep in mind like where the wind is blowing, because right now this industrial area here is blowing air pollution down here towards this residential area. So what I'm going to do is to dezone that. Probably going to have to move the landfill too, because otherwise you're going to have your people are going to be getting sick and not fun. Plus you have this garbage dump that is probably wafted a pretty funky odor. So, easy fix. D-zone all this. That coal plant is also wafting pollution in their direction. This groundwater is going to be tainted, but gotta make sacrifices. Alright. Let's get rid of that. There, that should help ameliorate that pollution problem. Plus, I won't run the risk of, as my city develops, having people living right next door to that shit. You gotta think when you play city builders. You can't just try to be like, ooh, pretty. Gotta think. What's my money looking like? Okay, we're at $150,000 deficit. Not the best, but not the worst. Waste. Ooh, small village of Newton City. Alright, so we've got a little stone quarry here. There we go. Yes, it is good to think. The thing is, a lot of cities, especially older cities in Europe, they were not planned. They just grew. A cemetery. Gotta have some place for the poor fuckers that kick off. If I had been an idiot and went to work today, I would have been in a cemetery. I do prefer the British pronunciation of cemetery. Cemetery. Let's send the little barons to school. But yeah. Catch me tomorrow, probably around the same time. I'm going to be doing chapter 2 of Rethinking Socialism. I was about to say Rethinking Capitalism. Okay, that looks somewhat like San Francisco. You should also rethink capitalism.
You're listening to Deluxe Relax with Alice Brash. Go ahead and say something, Sarah.
Oh, what should I say?
Don't touch that dial.
Don't touch that dial.
A housing shortage is driving up prices in the area.
That's right, Glenda. But apparently that's not all good news. We're joined today by an expert
Inflation?
guest, Professor
In a
Nutbuck.
city named after
Welcome,
Huey P.
Professor.
Newton?
So a
No.
housing shortage is bad for the people trying to move here, right?
Humans are programmed to desire certain representations within ideological reward structures, which are entirely apart from the actual rewards enjoyed. For example, consider capital.
One final question.
Yes,
Professor.
consider das
Is
Capital.
the housing shortage going to make me richer?
By certain metrics, perhaps yes, in the short term.
I like the sound of that.
But what we are discussing is the study of a statistical abstraction and its effect on the human
Thank
psyche.
you, Professor.
It is a question of priorities.
Interesting news from the city's export division. Sources tell us that our city has more services than we know what to do with.
And you know what that means, folks. It means we're not cutting things close enough.
Well, no. The point is we're selling it and bringing money into local
That's right.
economy.
You could almost say it's too much of a good thing.
Or we could say that we're enjoying a positive trade balance and the economy is booming. More after this.
Xi Jinping's governance of China is actually a how-to manual on how to do capitalism. If that's what you're into, by all means, read it. One of my comrades actually is reading it. It is literally the driest shit that you could ever hope to come across. Let's get a few Japanese-style medium-density homes going, eh? Leave America and go where? In what other country would I be allowed to sit on my fucking ass and play video games? I believe that's actually a quote from Lafargue's The Right to be Lazy. In what other country would I be able to sit on my ass and play video games? Why did I try to do a French accent and it came out sounding vaguely horribly German? If you want to be lazy, then Montenegro. You know Montenegro literally means Black Mountain? And you're telling the black guy if he wants to be lazy to move to a place that's called Black Mountain? That's kind of racist, bro. What's wrong with you? Oh, you're a Serb. Serbs are inherently racist. I don't know why I asked that stupid question that I already knew the answer to. Okay, budget deficit is tightening. I guess my people deserve a fire department. God, why is it so expensive to build something that people need? Because this isn't a socialist game, that's why. You fuckers gonna live right next door to the fire department. Ooh, German medium density housing. Deutsche Hausen. Third world is so right. You know, the funny thing about being a black Maoist is that everybody thinks you're a third worldist. Oof, a crime has been committed here. Has somebody's surplus value been stolen? Arrest all of the capitalists and execute them. There's no crime worse than the robbery of one's surplus value. Little bro never heard of the 10 Montenegrin commandments. I have not. I do not think about Montenegro. I'm like a typical American in that regard. How many times do you think an average American thinks about Montenegro? Fine, I will bring in your pigs. The Americans yearn for repression. We need cops. We cannot have a city without cops. I keep checking my fucking city's balance sheet like a fucking banker or an accountant. Press me harder, Daddy. Take me to jail. Hey, it looks kind of like Spain. What other productive forces do I have to exploit? I want to build farms right next door to a shitty industrial camp. Castle ruins? There's no castles in San Francisco. What is that, like the fucking Presidio or something? Just random shit. I'm gonna move that power plant later. Really loving these German row houses. Brit detached this. Oh, we're running out of power. Oh no. What are we ever going to do? Maybe you people are going to learn the value of socialist austerity. Okay, good. I'm going to cut some things. Services. Do we really need all this money for healthcare? No. God, I'm a horrible democratic socialist. Defund the police. Y'all are gonna learn the value of windmills. And the fucking wind speed is too low. There. Now shut up. And don't say you're running out of coal because we're mining that shit too. Casually demolishes. There are no castles in San Francisco. Pre-Columbian America did not have full feudalism. Why would they build castles? It's ahistorical and incorrect. Why would I build castles? This is socialism, not feudalism. Build a castle as a readout for when the people rise up and cut my throat. San Francisco does have plenty of Catholic missions. It literally means St. Francis.
This is an emergency broadcast to all citizens.
Increasing areas of
Para
forest
ustedes
are
que no
being
hablan
engulfed by
español.
flames. The thick smoke rising from the fire makes the air dangerous to breathe. Citizens are advised to vacate any premises near the
Breathing is
fires
banned.
and remain at a safe distance until emergency services manage to get the fires under control.
No, go out and look at the fire. Castles are a remnant of feudalism. America was founded as an inherently bourgeois country. We do not need castles. All right. Let's demolish this polluting shithole, eh? Well, I should at least have the money to replace it first. What is all this? Is there still industrial here? Get out. Get out. Get out. Stay in your lane. Wouldn't be socialism without factories, comrades. Alright. Let's give the people some parks. Well, actually, the people demand parks. I'm just a cadre administrator. I give the people nothing. The masses are fully capable of making their own demands. I just fill them. What do I think of Michael Parenti? He's a good guy. Definitely a lot better than his son. His son has written some pretty questionable stuff, if I recall correctly. I don't remember everybody's drama. I've got enough of my own. I don't speak that fucking guttural ass
Pending
language.
updates to our power grid, the city
Oh,
will be
shut
experiencing
up.
rolling blackouts. We urge the public to remain calm during these breaks in service and to follow the guidelines on the city's website on how to plan for these temporary events. This has been a local public service announcement. Local authorities are urging the public to conserve water and reduce the burden on the city during this water shortage. Consider installing a low-flush toilet, cut back on watering the lawn, and shower with a friend whenever possible. This has been a local public service announcement.
Yes, comrade. Take shower with friend.
Hello,
His-
this is Alice.
His
You're
son's name
listening
is
to
Christian.
Deluxe Relax.
He
It's
he
the
wrote a bunch
best
of shit in
station on
Jacobin. I don't know,
air.
look him
But
up.
don't worry, nobody is going to think you're a nincompoop for changing the channel.
I think you're a
The power
nincompoop
of
for changing the
positive
channel.
thinking, right?
That's right, Sarah. You're doing great.
We're live, and we're getting reports about a traffic accident somewhere in the city.
Road maintenance services have already been dispatched, and traffic flow should return to normal. But if you're planning a quick trip out, you might want to wait a little while until everything clears up.
If you're in it, you already know about it. No use reminding you. Meanwhile, expect delays and drive safe. We're live, and we're getting reports about a traffic accident somewhere in the city.
Road maintenance services have already been dispatched, and traffic flow should return to normal. But if you're planning a quick trip out, you might want to wait a little
Would
while
not be
until
America
everything
without
clears up.
power
If
lines
you're in it,
everywhere.
you already know about it. No use reminding you. Meanwhile, expect delays and drive safe.
Well, I would try to make places where I would enjoy living. I don't think anybody just wants to live in a fucking grid. Little boxes on a hillside. Little boxes made of ticky-tacky. Little boxes, little boxes, little boxes, all the same. Little boxes on the hillside, little boxes made of ticky-tacky, little boxes, all the same. There's a green one, and a pink one, and a blue one, and a yellow one, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky, and they all look just the same. And the people in the houses, they go to the university, they all... It's not a real city if you don't build it on a grid, eh? No, I imagine you did not get that from the Brits. You all have been treated to the extremely rare performance of BRG singing. Except that it happens once every few months, and I'm not even drunk. Gonna have to expand these roads pretty soon. The productive forces must develop. Look at these fucking productive forces. Oof. Again, keep industry away from your water. You will thank me later. I learned that playing SimCity as a kid. Kid in Korea cheated on his wife. Why do you think that why do you just assume that I know who that is? You got your racism from the Brits, everything else from the US. Of course, you all are our 51st state. High rent. The rent is too damn high. So when I finish with Rethinking Socialism, what do you guys want me to read next? And no, I am not going to read all of the volumes of Capital. I do have a life, and I do value my mental health. I don't know what the hell I'm letting you fuckers pick for anyways. Y'all look like you get off on watching me suffer. Oh, for fuck's sake. Y'all need to stop wasting electricity. I'm about to teach my citizens the virtues of socialist rationing. Just waste electricity, waste electricity. You guys are not Americans anymore. Stop doing that. We could wedge some more industrial over here. We got ground pollution up here. Probably from that fucking power plant. Definitely from that fucking power plant. $20.25 is when the chump plays his supporters for fools. Egg prices. You know, I love how everybody is tripping off egg prices. I don't even eat eggs, so I'm good. We'll still be up. There will be tariffs and there will be a new pandemic. I hope not. We haven't even made it over the first one yet. It's just fuck up after fuck up after fuck up. But Americans are gonna American. Alright, so nothing is over capacity. That's good. That's really all I care about. High school is good. Can't afford to build a high school.
This is an emergency broadcast to all citizens.
Radar readings indicate a tornado is approaching the city and will be visible soon. Citizens should seek immediate cover.
Yay! I want to see the tornado. You know, I've been in exactly one tornado in my life. Well, I haven't been in it, but like there was an actual tornado on the ground, like literally a mile away from where I lived at the time. Pretty harrowing experience. Not fun. Would not recommend. 0 out of 10. Yes, I've lived in the Midwest my entire life. I've only seen one tornado. I'm a fake Midwesterner. I'm a city Midwesterner. Tornadoes are mainly a thing anyways. Like, tornadoes are mainly a thing that you get when you live in the city. I mean, not in the city, in the country. I mean, we get them in the city, but like, if you want to see a tornado, you have to be in the country. It's really that simple. I think the buildings fuck up a lot, but I don't know what the hell you want to see a tornado for. The indigenous called those things dancing devils for a reason. I would not like to be in such a situation. But Kansas is always open if any of you comrades would like to see a dancing devil. But I'm good. I'm good on tornadoes. Yeah, the West Coast does get earthquakes. You all got like, what, 2 or 3 faults there? Plus you guys got volcanoes. I believe Rainier is a volcano. St. Helens, we know, is a volcano. It blew up. Almost 50 years ago. Yeah.
A driving advisory has been issued for the immediate area due
shut
to
up.
poor road conditions. Please
Rah, rah,
exercise
rah.
caution if you must drive, and try to stay off the streets until conditions improve.
No,
This
everybody
has
to
been a
the
local
streets.
public service announcement. A driving advisory has been issued for the immediate area due to poor road conditions.
Whose
Please
streets?
exercise
Our
caution
streets.
if you
Whose
must drive,
streets? Our
and try to
streets.
stay off the streets until conditions improve. This has been a local public service announcement.
You're listening to Deluxe Relax with Alice Brash. Go ahead and say something, Sarah.
Oh, what should I say?
Don't touch that dial.
Don't touch that dial.
We're live, and we're getting reports about a traffic accident somewhere in the city.
Road maintenance services have already been dispatched, and traffic flow should return to normal. But if you're
Accidents
planning
for
a quick
all.
trip out, you might want to wait a
Another
little while
fucking
until
castle.
everything clears up.
If you're in it, you already know about it. No use reminding you.
Where are all these
Meanwhile,
castles coming from?
Expect delays and
There are no
drive safe.
castles in the San Francisco
This just in for
Bay
traffic.
metropolitan
if
area.
you're thinking about hitting the streets, you can expect delays on the major roads, especially during rush hour.
Good to know, Jim. Seems like everyone is in a hurry to get somewhere fast. It's worth slowing
On the other
down.
hand, I don't think San
And
Francisco
if
has
you
ever had a
can,
tornado,
plan your
so.
trip outside the rush.
Oh, I don't know. I'd rather wait an hour in traffic than to have to start thinking about everything all the time. Besides, if I did that, I'd never get anywhere.
Yeah, the windmills are good. Not gonna keep building fucking shitty coal power plants. Let's see if I've gotten any new resources. No farming. Oil. Yeah. So this is actually how, like, when you look at a map of San Francisco, this is actually how it really sits. This is Marin County up here, I believe. And there's your Golden Gate Bridge. Really not much to look at. These maps are massive. Wait, you're pretty sure BRG has already read what? What have I already read? Stokely Speaks? Yeah, I've already read that one. Shit, I've read that years ago. Pretty sure I gave my copy away to somebody, or it might be in this stack of books behind me. That's the thing with me. Like, I just give people books. One of my coworkers bought my copy of Monster Cody's autobiography. I like to spread knowledge. Time to build another hospital. $12,000 miserable bastards living in Town. No more industrial over here. I don't want to poison my groundwater. Oof. A car fire. Hopefully it wasn't a terrorist attack. Yeah, I need to expand these roads. I've built a fucking European city. Maybe I should keep the castles. The Ethnological Notebooks of Karl Marx. That sounds boring as hell. I think y'all overestimate how much I like Marx. Yes, I've read him. But, like, I'm not into Marx like that. I'm not going to read his fucking notebooks. It's probably why I'm such a non-dogmatic Marxist, because, like, I'm not into dude like that. I look at Marx like a lot of, like, biologists look at Charles Darwin. Like, he discovered some laws that would have been discovered anyway, but, like, I don't see the guy as some type of god or something. I have Stokely Carmichael's position on him. Well, Kwame Ture. Real black nationalists know that Stokely Carmichael, that's his slave name. His real name is Kwame Ture. Petrol? We have no petrol station. How are we to obtain petrol? Yeah, can't build the big nice parks. You can build little plazas and shit though. People need green space. That's what a lot of people forget. Like, people are not made of stone. Anarchy Works by Peter Gilderloos. I've read something by him. I've heard some pretty disturbing rumors about dude, though. That's the thing with rumors. Like, you hear them, but you can't remember their content. It was something that made me not want to engage with him anymore. What does your bisexuality have to do with Max Stirner, who may or may not have existed? Stirner is a bisexualist. You should not be hating him. Culture and Imperialism by Edward Said. I haven't read that one either. It's a lot of shit I haven't read. Y'all just think I sit up and read like I'm a fucking loser. I'm not Hermaeus Mora. I have a life. God, windmills take up a lot of space.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special news bulletin. Radar readings indicate a tornado is approaching the city and will be visible soon. Citizens should seek immediate cover.
This is a parallel universe. Tornadoes and castles in the Bay Area. Has San Francisco ever even gotten a fucking tornado? I don't think I've ever heard of one. I know they get big ass earthquakes. But tornadoes, that's our thing. Culturally appropriated motherfuckers. Educating yourself and others is the primary duty of any leftist. Well, no, the duty of any the first duty of leftists is to make revolution. But to make revolution, you cannot do it with an uneducated people. That's how you end up with a crew of bandits. So, yeah. UK medium density housing. Yeah. Newtontown in the golden hour. Oof. That's shitty. That's real shitty. There. BRG fixed. $1 million surplus. Très bien. The background song has no name.
Pending
I think
updates to our power grid, the city will be
this is just an
experiencing rolling
approximation of
blackouts.
something
We
that
urge the
vaguely
public to
sounds like
remain calm
English by a
during
bunch
these
of Finnish
breaks in
people who do
service
not speak
and to
English.
follow the guidelines on the city's website on how to plan for these temporary events. This has been a local public service announcement. Local authorities are urging the public to conserve water and reduce the burden on the city during this water shortage. Consider installing a low-flush toilet, cut back on watering the lawn, and shower with a friend whenever possible. This has been a local public service announcement.
You're listening to Deluxe Relax with Alice Brash. Go ahead and say something, Sarah.
Oh, what should I say?
Don't touch that dial.
Don't touch that dial.
Industry in the region is on the rise, and when business is doing well, that floats our boat.
There's no sinking this boat, Glenda. We're live, and we're getting reports about a traffic accident somewhere in the city.
Road maintenance services have already been dispatched, and traffic flow should return to normal. But if you're planning a quick trip out, you might want to wait a little while until everything clears up.
If you're in it, you already know about it. No use reminding you. Meanwhile, expect delays and drive safe.
Goddamn Scandinavians and their map games. I think I'm going to go shovel snow or something. You all go find something to do with your lives. Also, catch me tomorrow.